Okay, let's talk about the operating agreement. Now, before we do that, I want to point out one thing. There's often a phrase that people use where they say you should not go into business with friends. When I was starting one of my companies, one of my first ones, I heard that often, like most of you probably do. And I thought, yeah, but it'll be fine. And I went into business with some friends. It was not fine. So I will not do that ever again. I made a very painful, gut wrenching mistake in doing that. So even if you think it'll be fine, maybe rethink it. I strongly encourage you to not, or go into business with friends that are maybe friends at a distance, but not like your best friends. Here's why. So it probably seems really fun now, and you're like starting a business together, like maybe raising some money. You've got some cool ideas of all these like really awesome things you're going to do. But after a year, 2 years, 3 years of doing this, let's say the business is not doing so well. Now, the two of you or more are going to be totally stressed out, and you're going to be overworked, and you're going to start to make some rough decisions. When you're stressed out and overworked and poor, by the way, you might start to think, I'm working harder than this other person is. Why are we getting paid the same? And then everything starts to fall apart. Um, you'll get mad at that person will get mad at you, and then you've got big problems. Now let's look at it the other way. Let's say the business is going really well. Then you have essentially the same problem where now you've got money. Money's on the table, and you could say, well, I'm putting in 100 hours a week on this business, and you know, my buddy Jane is putting in 20 hours a week. Like, that's not fair that we get paid the same. But if you started the business together and you agreed to certain rules, then yeah, that's the way it goes. So you might have to, well, you will have to have very tough conversations with these friends. And it might result in you firing one of the friends if you have set up the company in a way that lets you do that. So, the whole point of the operating agreement is to make it so that when those tough conversations happen, you can point to this document and say, hey, look, before we got deep in the weeds on this, this is how we agreed we would handle this situation. This is the agreement that says how you are going to run the company in all kinds of crazy situations, what's going to happen. And there's a lot of different situations covered in the operating agreement. So, if you want to go into business with your friends, you're welcome to do it. I couldn't advise you strongly not to, but if you're like me, you're going to do it anyway. So, just make sure, promise me that you'll have a good operating agreement in place, because you're going to give yourself a world of hurt if you don't have this operating agreement set up and written in stone. So let's go over what ought to be in one. So what we're going to do over the next 7 or 8 videos is I've kind of broken this down into 7 different kind of main chunks of stuff that should be in the operating agreement. I want to go over all of these, and then at the end, I'm going to post a sample operating agreement, something that you can download and edit and use as kind of a template to get started on your own. This is not an official government form or anything like that. You can kind of freelance it. You can write it on a napkin, although it would take a lot of napkins because there's a lot of stuff in it. But you can. I mean, as long as the two of you sign it and you put it in a vault somewhere, then it'll work, I suppose. So that being said, let's dive in.